with the roll call.
Hey, Manager Schottmuller,
Here.
Manager Bucky,
I am here.
Manager Taves. Did I make him co-host? I saw him in there.
She's muted.
Give me a second. He should be co-host.
I see his name.
He's on here. I see him. I see the name.
Yeah. Okay, well, from, Manager Schmaltz,
Here.
President Anderson.
Here. Manager Taves is here as well. We're just having trouble with the audio. So we will take your thumbs up as a yes, you were here. And we can get started. Setting of the meeting agenda. Is there anything to add to the agenda? Mike, I think you were mentioning something earlier.
Madam President, managers, yes, there was a request to discuss the appointment process to the pending opening in September of one of the seats from Washington County. So,
And some of the things that Steve is running into, thank you. Anything else?
no, we could probably put that.
Add that behind the old business.
Oh, yeah, we were gonna put it down,
8B.
yeah,
I got it down.
or report to staff even.
7B old business, yeah.
7B there, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I was thinking more report of staff area, but yeah, that's fine. We'll do 7B for that topic. All right. Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I will
So
move.
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, no, you got it.
Okay,
All right, Manager Schottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Bucky,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
aye. Okay, motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. We only have one meeting minutes. By the way, this is a new rotation for those of you who talked to staff about making sure that we could get the minutes as quickly as possible. So that's why you're seeing them on every meeting agenda. So it does help. Instead of having, we should only have one every time to review. So is there a motion to approve that, or is there any comment or change that anyone wants to make?
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as printed.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Manager Schottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Bucky,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Passes unanimous, thank you. Next is a public open forum. Is there anyone present here or online that would like to address the board?
Let me make sure. I don't believe anyone online is wanting to speak.
Do we have visitors online?
Just, Tom Fury and Michael Miller.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I would point out also that we have a CAC member sitting with us at the table, and Dave, you want to just talk a little bit?
Well, I'm not a member yet.
Oh,
I'm kind of applying. for
Okay.
membership.
okay,
Okay, yeah, I don't know what Aiden sent you about my background,
Mhm.
but I've lived here in Forest Lake in the watershed. Only about 9 months now, and I moved here from Wisconsin. And don't hold that against me because I was born in Glenwood, Minnesota. If you know where that is, it's by LA, on a dairy farm there. I got a degree at the University of Minnesota in soil science. And then I began my career with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, which is under USDA. And I spent quite a bit of time in Meeker County, which is Litchfield. and as a district conservationist. And there I had the opportunity to work with the Clearwater Watershed District. So I am familiar with watersheds. And they were formed back in the 70s. So that's probably an older watershed district. But mostly my job with the Natural Resource Conservation Service was working on private land with resource management and mostly farmland resource conservation. And then I became more of a management position with NRCS, and that's why I ended up in Spooner, Wisconsin. And I retired there in the year 2000. And then I became lake coordinator for the city of Shell Lake. And so they had a number of issues. That's a beautiful, if you've ever seen Shell Lake in Shell Lake, Wisconsin. And I was lake coordinator there because they were doing some major things with that lake. And then I became a director on the Washburn County Lakes and Rivers Association. And so I was a director until I left there and came here. So I've read kind of your annual report, I've seen the projects you're working on. And I'm familiar with a lot of those projects. I worked on them in my career too. So I appreciate what all you're doing. And therefore, I decided that as I came here to Forest Lake, I wanted to become more involved in the community. And of course, I'm interested in this stuff. So that's why I've been attending the advisory committee meetings.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have that experience on our side.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
thank you.
I can be of benefit.
Thank you. All right, next is the advisory committee updates. Community advisory update is first. Actually, yeah.
I forgot to put the
you were
motion up
here.
on here.
Here.
What's
that?
I believe Aiden's online first.
Yes, he is.
All right, thank you, Madam President and managers. Attached to your packet are the minutes from our lightly attended CAC meeting from this month. So we had an excellent overview of the purple loosestrife controls and an update on AIS from Matthew. That was our main agenda item. And then, of course, we have Dave Vold's application here before the board as well.
There should be a motion in your packets. I did forget to put that up on the screen though.
Yeah, it is part of the agenda too. Pick it up. Let me make the motion if people don't have that at their beck and call, but this is a nomination for Dave Vold. I'm pronouncing that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. And I will need a second.
I will gladly second that motion to accept Dave.
Okay, thank you very much. Roll call?
All right, Manager Schottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you,
Okay.
unanimous, welcome.
Hopefully, it can be of benefit.
I think so,
Look forward to
sure.
having you, Dave. Thanks for applying.
absolutely. All right, the next item of business is the Minnesota Watersheds Annual Meeting on Resolutions and Petitions.
Madam President and managers, so this is an action item with respect to the delegate appointment form that is on page 4, or the fourth sheet, I guess. The Minnesota Watersheds will require a quorum of 22 delegates and at least one from each region for their upcoming meeting later in August 31st. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and it'll address the items listed. As for the resolutions, in the past, we've done a review with Mr. Holtman. I think the draft versions were already reviewed, if I recall, and yes, they were. And then we have subsequently learned that the committee, the Minnesota Watersheds Legislative Committee, has supported moving all of these forward. So I don't know if there's any further discussion on any individual one or on any other matter. Otherwise, there's a motion to be made as to the delegate appointment form.
I hope somebody else wants to do this since it's Zoom. You don't have to drive anywhere and experience. This should be an easy one. But as Mike said, there has to be a certain number of members of the association to be present and to make it legal by our bylaws. So probably have to read what you're voting on, but other than that, I don't think it's gonna be terribly difficult. So hopefully someone else will do this year. We can spread that joy. I don't have to always have that.
I am tied up that day, so at 10 a.m. is not gonna work for me.
Okay. Manager Taves, I know you work, so that probably isn't gonna work for you. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Baki, don't turn around.
I'm looking for my calendar. Let me check my
See you.
calendar. Hold on.
Look at the door.
What did you say? He's heading for the door?
Yeah,
No, I had to look at my calendar, you know, my big calendar here, and it's a recycling day for garbage. So I don't know. Otherwise, I am available. I could do it.
okay, good. We have a taker. All right, we will.
So we only
on
need
you.
one then?
Yeah, we only need one.
Well, you can.
Oh, there's a, yeah, that's right. There's an alternate too, I
You
think.
can appoint two and an alternative.
Okay, so 3. All right. Yeah, you can be number 2 if you want to. Can you-
Yeah,
can you do
I think
it?
I have to check my calendar, but I think I'm okay now.
Yeah, that's
Not
great.
leaving until, I think the following week.
Okay,
I'll check it and link it back to me.
yeah, please do. If you can.
Do
I'll
both
do
of them vote or only one of us? vote?
it. She just said it was 2.
For
You
me?
can do-
And an
Or 2
alternate.
minutes. And an alternate, if we need to. But we have 2 people who can't do it, for sure, so the 3 of us
Right.
have to work it out. And if you want to be that voting one, go ahead,
Sure,
I'll be the alternate. Does that sound good?
that's fine.
Okay, we have our slate of alternates will be Manager Baki and Manager Schmalz, and I will be the alternate. So is there a motion to accept this? I'll make the motion. There's a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got lots of seconds. Pick the first one.
Okay, Manager Shotmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Great. Next is Bowser easement program. Programs, plural.
All
Madam
right, we have
President.
just. Okay, okay.
Madam President, managers, given that we're kind of now fully moving into the Greenbelt program, there was a request to better understand some of the programs that are available, and we thought that the best place to start would be with Bowser. So Dusty Van he's the easement programs coordinator, and he's here to present, I guess, basically the framework of what Bowser has available, and probably could speak to some of the other programs as well. Welcome, Dusty.
Yes, welcome. We're very interested in your message.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here.
Let me know if you can't. Okay.
Coming through okay?
Mhm.
All right. All right. Good evening, Madam President and managers. My name's Dusty Anthony. I'm a easement programs coordinator with Bowser out of our St. Paul office. I live in Circle Pine, so I'm not too far away from Forest Lake, but didn't make the drive this evening, so Zoom will have to do. Today, I'm just going to cover RIM, our Reinvest in Minnesota easement program, and then I'll focus on a couple of our programs that are kind of under that RIM umbrella that may be applicable to the watershed district. So through Bowser, we have what we call restoration programs under RIM, as well as protection programs. And then we also have in partnership some other programs that are available throughout the state. So the RIM Reserve Program was established in 1986. It is under Minnesota Statute 103F 505 to 531. The purpose of RIM is to restore certain marginal ag land and protect environmentally sensitive areas to enhance soil and water quality, minimize damage to flood-prone areas, sequester carbon, support native plant, fish, and wildlife habitats, as well as establish perennial vegetation. For the first 20-ish years of RIM, bonding was the only funding source. And RIM at that time did not have what we call sub-programs. An increase in funding sources, accomplishment plans, appropriation language, and partners required pots of funding separate for unique and specific purposes, leading to our roughly 18 unique RIM programs. Protection easements are relatively new in the life of RIM, beginning in 2010. And you can think of RIM, like I'd mentioned, as the mechanism or umbrella under which unique easement programs live. And there are currently 18 to 19 unique RIM programs available in certain parts of the state. RIM easements are voluntary. The voluntary agreement to purchase certain land rights and restrict use of the land through a binding legal contract. The easement is a type of property right that allows another person, business, or entity access to a specific part or use of another entity's property, similar in legal rights to a drainage or utility easement. The RIM easement is voluntary and binding contract focused on achieving the goals of the previous slide. RIM is utilized to protect or restore natural sources of water for water quality or habitat benefits. And RIM is accomplished through private landowners and the state, Bowser, and monitored and implemented locally by soil and water conservation districts. It typically takes between 10 and 16 months for easement processing. Easements are typically perpetual, a minimum of 20 years by statute. And currently we only have 2 RIM programs that have a limited term option. The location of RIM easements vary by program and priority areas and the ranking for the programs. It is a real estate transaction, much like a fee title sale. There are a number of eligibility requirements for RIM. Each of our sub-programs has eligibility requirements and score sheets. So the area of land must meet program natural resource goals and appropriation language. The land must be owned by the applicant or blood relative for at least 1 year prior to date of application. There needs to be public or legal access from a public road, and there cannot be any objectionable liens or encumbrances on the title. Some of the key aspects of RIM conservation easements are the landowner retains title to the property and all associated rights and obligations of ownership, aside from the restrictions or rights that are within the easement document. The property remains privately owned, and it does not require the land be accessible to the public. The RIM easement runs with the title to the land, and all future owners are bound by the easement terms. A new easement does not affect previously recorded documents. It may affect the property's resale value, and it may or may not lower property tax assessments. This slide just shows some examples of what is not allowed on a RIM easement. This list is not to be considered all-inclusive. The two biggest restrictions on RIM conservation easements are no structures and no row crop agriculture. There are a couple programs that do allow row crop agriculture, and that is specific to the easement document itself that gets recorded. The owner has what's considered quiet enjoyment rights, which would not result in vegetative cover changes to the vegetative cover. So a couple other things that are not allowed on RIM conservation easements are roads or driveways, haying, grazing, or timber harvest without an approved plan, wells, septic systems, dumping of solid waste, cell towers, wind or solar facilities. Basically, any activity that alters the vegetative cover, hydrology, or wildlife habitat would not be allowed unless it's specifically approved within our conservation plans. The map on the left here is just showing a distribution of RIM easements we have throughout the state. This is a little over a year out of date, but it's just to give you an idea of the location of our easements. Currently, we have over 7,900 active recorded easements on over 350,000 acres statewide. There are a number of different funding sources that are utilized under the RIM program. The Outdoor Heritage Fund and the Clean Water Fund both come from the Legacy Amendment, which is a small percentage of 1% sales tax. That was voted in 2008, that goes through 2034. That same funding goes to Arts and Cultural Heritage funding and Parks and Trails. For the Outdoor Heritage Fund and Clean Water Fund, Bowser needs to apply for this funding for specific projects and compete with other agencies and nonprofits. The Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund it comes from the lottery proceeds, and much like the Outdoor Heritage Fund and Clean Water Fund, Bowser needs to apply for this specific funding for specific projects along with other agencies and nonprofits. Bonding, typically the state borrows money from investors to fund long-term infrastructure projects, and sometimes the state does this on behalf of Bowser easements, but sometimes not. And then the general fund is funding where the legislature can take a chunk of the Minnesota state budget and decide to put it towards Bowser's easement work. It is rare for us to get more than a very small amount of money directly from the legislature like this, but if there's a priority like climate resiliency, then it can happen. The right side of the slide here is our program page online that lists all of our conservation easement programs. Kind of tough to see, but each program lists the program manager, who's the lead on the easement program, the geography, application type, the payment rate structure, and then the funding status. I can walk through this web page after if you'd like. RIM operates under statute, like I had mentioned before, and there are also other statutes that need to be followed for the RIM program. So RIM statute requires the one-year ownership, like I mentioned. In statute, our easements cannot be less than 20 years. Wetland easements must be permanent, and in 2023, the RIM Working Lands program was put into statute. The Outdoor Heritage Fund has statutory language that needs to be followed as well, and does the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. Both require permanent. Both require a notice of funding restriction be recorded alongside the easement document. And then there are restrictions on existing easements and publicly owned land. The funding from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund would need to be on existing easements or publicly owned land. Through RIM, we do have a couple federal agreements. The first one would be the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. That's a 13-page agreement that governs what we can do, as well as CRP guidance. The Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program is partnered with the USDA, signed by the Deputy Administrator, as well as by Minnesota Governor. We recently completed an amendment that took 8 months to complete, and significant changes require extensive federal review to that agreement. The second federal agreement we have within Bowser under the RIM program is the Army Compatible Use Buffer. That's a 39-page agreement. It's 10 years in length, and modifications are only to add funding. So since a lot of our RIM programs are statewide, we do have 5 easement program coordinators. I'm located in St. Paul, like I had mentioned. We have Darren covering the Northeast, John Vaz covering the Northwest, Kevin Roth covers the central part of the state, and then Sarah Reagan covers the Southwest. All 5 of us have specific programs that we work on, but if SWC or landowner or watershed district within a certain area, they can contact any of us and we'll direct them to the appropriate person or get their questions answered. So like I mentioned, we have roughly 18 sub-programs under RIM. So we do have this RIM online map. This is really useful. An example would be if a landowner walked in the door and they want to know what easement options are available through Bowser. You can go to this map, zoom into the property location, and then if you click on the property, it'll list all of the RIM programs that could be available for that specific parcel or field. So if you can see on this one, there's 5 different programs that might be available in this geographic area. So that would narrow it down a little bit, but then there's still the work of going through eligibility and scoring and ranking to see which program may fit the best for the landowner's goals. So that's kind of a quick background of RIM. If anyone has any questions on those slides, I can take those now. Otherwise, I was just going to hop into a couple programs that may fit the area. So since we have so many programs under RIM, we do split them out between restoration programs and protection programs. Our restoration programs are focused on restoring marginal cropland back into a grassland or wetland habitat complex. So 3 of our restoration programs are the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which I mentioned is in federal partnership, that agreement with USDA. We have the RIM Riparian and Floodplain Restoration Program, as well as the RIM Wetlands Program. Under RIM Wetlands, we have a sub-program for peatland restoration. So this evening, I'll cover RIM Riparian and Floodplain Restoration and RIM Wetlands, as well as the peatland sub-program. So the RIM Riparian and Floodplain Program, the goal and objectives are to protect, restore, and enhance habitat and water quality adjacent to public waters. This program is available statewide. There is some overlap with the eligibility location of the CREP program. So if there's land that's eligible for both, we direct the SWCD and the landowners to apply through CREP first, just to utilize that federal leverage that's available. The RIM riparian program is kind of unique where it has a few different options that the landowner can choose based on their goals and objectives for the property. So we have our traditional RIM easement, which is perpetual. There's also a working lands option where haying, grazing, silvopasture, other working lands activities could be utilized. You can do a limited term easement through the RIM riparian program. The minimum for this program is 30 years. Or the landowner could choose to do a working lands easement and a limited term easement. This program is funded by the Outdoor Heritage Fund and the Clean Water Fund. So like I had mentioned, the Outdoor Heritage Fund needs to be perpetual. So any limited term easement would be utilizing our prior appropriated Clean Water Fund sources. There is currently a batching period open for this program until August 14th. That opened July 1st. The RIM riparian program requires a 300-foot buffer on rivers and streams, or the extent of the floodplain. And then if there is a landowner that's applying on a lake or public water wetland, we would look at a buffer of 1,000 feet. And that can vary based on the property type. So we'd work with the landowner and the local office to determine the appropriate width that we would require. The other restoration program I'll cover tonight is the RIM Wetlands program. The focus of the RIM Wetlands program is to restore wetlands and the adjacent upland complexes. This program is also available statewide, and we would direct people to apply for CREP if CREP is available, if the land is eligible for that program. This program is also open until August 14th, this current batching period. So this would be a perpetual conservation easement, and we would use the township value payment rate structure. So our RIM rates have been updated annually in the past few years. So there's a PDF document that has a value for each township. If it's cropland, there's a cropland rate. Non-cropland has its own rate as well. So under RIM wetlands, we have a separate source of funding for peatlands restoration. This comes from general funding as well as federal funding. So the goal of the peatlands sub-program is to restore cropped and altered wetlands. So this can be completed through restorations on current easements, if there are existing easements that have histosols. Otherwise, new easements could be acquired and the restorations completed on those. There is another option through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service through a partners agreement. That would be a 10-year agreement that the landowner could choose to do rather than the perpetual easement. And I'm just going to pull up a map here. Are you able to see this restorable peatlands map?
Yep.
Okay. So this online mapping tool shows the potentially restorable peatlands within the state. The darker the blue color is the higher the percent of histosols, which is what's used to determine what is a peatland. So if you have an area of interest, you can use this online mapping tool to zoom in and determine the percentage of histosols, and that could be a good starting place to determine if the peatlands sub-program is a good fit. The online mapping tool also has a number of different layers that can be added to it to help you narrow into location a little better. Just to note, not all histosols are peatlands. Histosols can also be found in more traditional depressional wetlands. The layers on this online mapping tool can also be found in Minnesota Geospatial Commons, so you could download a shapefile for your own mapping project. And like I mentioned, this is a good step in determining potential restoration sites, as it's not always easy to find these sites. Many of the peatland areas are non-crop or unaltered, so a restoration isn't feasible.
Can you point to Chisago County and Washington County? It should be that little sort of bumpy area, right where it comes, yeah, squeezes in. Yeah, I think. Oh, we have a lot. That's the dark blue?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot up north. I mean, you can see that, but down here, we still have some.
Yeah, there's little pockets scattered around.
Okay.
So on the peatlands program, kind of the primary form of restoration are filling in ditches, surface ditches, or ditch plugs like that.
It's amazing, isn't it? All that water. I mean, it's not just the lakes, it's in the soil too.
Yeah, and this is a relatively newer program for us, sub-program for us. So if there are any questions on specific sites, along with any of our programs, if you have a specific site in mind, any 5 of us program coordinators can help narrow down the potential options.
Mm-hmm. What about the sequestering of carbon? You had that on your first slide. You haven't talked about that yet. Which program would that work into?
So I believe that's under the peatlands program as well. The federal funding we received was let's go back here.
Is Bone Lake South, that was just a message that came up from one of our people online. Is that peatland soil? Do you know?
Not 100% sure.
Okay,
Something like that, yeah.
source of funding. Well, maybe we can have staff spend some time and identify those places. If there's money in special spots that we didn't know about, that certainly opens the doors to doing one additional improvement for keeping things natural.
The Bone Lake South does have quite a bit of peat area.
Okay, good. And we need to start promoting those extra things that we do, not just the phosphorus and sediment. We don't even do sediment every time, which we should be doing. But because that's a pretty standard top 3 item to track. But all of these benefits, all of them should be listed with each project. This is a big one. We can pull carbon out of the air and put it back into the ground. That's good for everybody. I don't want to break your routine here, Dusty, but is this the last one that you're going to talk about the specific programs? Or is there more?
I think I had. Just gonna get into a little more detail of the eligibility for the peatland sub-program.
Yeah. Good, no, keep going. Basically, my question is going to be, how much are these funds for each of these things? If you can give us a number, and are these small grants or are these program style grants where you can do something bigger?
Yeah, so under the peatlands specific funding right now, I believe we have roughly $5 million available for projects.
Okay.
Under rim riparian and floodplain restoration, we have roughly $4 million available for this July, mid-August batching period.
Mm-hmm.
We did submit a proposal through the Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council for additional funding, but that would not be available until 2027 if we were awarded funds through that.
Okay, does timing have anything to do with it? Application timing, or is it all based on the best purpose, the best need?
Yeah, so Madam President, managers, that's a good question. Our rim riparian program and our rim wetlands program do function on set batching periods. So the applications can only be submitted at certain periods of the year. I believe we try to have them roughly quarterly. We also don't want to overlap with some of our other programs and just overwhelm staff with processing. So we do have a calendar on our programs page website that lists the batching periods. I believe the availability of funds is also listed on that page. But if not, I can get a better breakdown and send that out if that'd be helpful.
Well, I think it would be. I mean, if you're going on merit, that's one thing, but the earlier that you get it in, the more likely you are to have it reviewed, right? If it gets too close to the end, do you still make a point of going through all of them? Or, like I said before, is it something where you give something to everybody that comes in? I'm sure that all these programs are focused on this particular thing for these grants.
Yeah, Madam President, managers, that's a good question. We do review all applications that are received by the last day of the batching period. So anything that we receive by August 14th will be reviewed. Our programs do have score sheets, so applications are funded based on a scoring and ranking selection process.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them are considered if they're received by the last day of the batching period.
Okay, and that scoring metrics is available to the public?
Yeah, every program here on our page, so I'll just click on rim riparian. So if you click on the program, it has a breakdown of the overview, the benefits, the sign-up schedule, and then each program has a guidance document that explains more of the goals and details of the program. And then the score sheet is available online as well.
Good.
So
it helps to know what you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. So this gets completed with every application, and then the program managers review and confirm the score, and then we determine a scoring threshold based on the funding availability and the applications received. So we may have to raise our scoring threshold at certain times due to limited funds, and some applications may not be funded for that reason.
Okay. Great.
But all the programs should have the score sheet available on their program page.
Mm-hmm.
So for rim wetlands and rim wetlands, the peatland subprogram, the site must contain drained and altered wetlands as well as be restorable. For peatlands, over 50% of the proposed restorable wetland area must be located on histocell soils. And in a depressional setting, at least 75% of the peatland area must be restorable to a continuously saturated wetland or a wetland with a shallow water regime and continuously saturated fringe. The hydrology that's restored must be stable and not prone to extended drying or flooding periods. And that's specific to the peatland subprogram. So through peatlands, this is the eligibility for both easements as well as the 10-year U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agreement that I mentioned. Just to list off a few of our protection programs that we have. These aren't directly available to the watershed district area, but we are focusing on wild rice lakes as well as remnant prairie grasslands. We do have a program that is aiming to keep pasture on the landscape and grazing lands available. And then we have a number of programs that are focused on critical shorelands on different water courses.
And what's a critical shoreline? How do you define that?
So we have a couple of partner programs, Madam Chair and Manager, or Madam President and managers. We have a partner program through the Mississippi Headwaters Board, so that's focused on the Mississippi River and tributaries. We have a partnership program with Pine Soil and Water Conservation District, focused on the Pine and Leech areas. And then we are also focused on the Kettle and Snake water rivers.
What about the Sunrise in the middle part of the state?
Madam President and managers, I'm not sure on the specifics of that one, if it falls within any of our other critical shorelands programs or not.
Okay.
But I can look into that and get back to the group.
Good.
We have a few programs that could be a restoration or a protection program, dependent on the parcel that is applied for. So we have our integrating habitat and clean water program. We call it RIM 1W1P. So that's available in areas that have an approved comprehensive watershed management plan and have a focus of habitat within that plan. We have our drinking water program, which was formerly called RIM Wellhead. And then we had a forest restoration program available in the last few years. That program is out of funding right now, but it was available for the central and northern parts of the state. A couple of the partner, so Pine and Leech with Crow Wing, like I had mentioned, and then Pine SWCD with Kettle and Snake Watershed, Mississippi Headwaters Board, as well as the Army Compatible Use Buffer Program through Morrison SWCD. And then just real quick here, like I had mentioned, our easements take roughly between 10 to 16 months from application to recording. So there are a number of different steps. This flow chart is available online. It kind of helps guide landowners and local offices through the process and when the local office needs to do something and when Bowser is working on an item. And then we are moving towards surveying our easements. I didn't mention, but our RIM easements to this date have not been surveyed there. We are moving to that process here this year on a couple of our programs, and then in 2027, that process will take place for all RIM programs. So it's roughly the same time frame, just some of the steps are in different orders as the survey happens more on the front end. So this is available online as well. Called our RIM refresh program. Right now it's in a pilot phase. And in 2027, it'll move fully to all RIM programs. And that is the last slide I had. If anyone has questions, I can take those now. Just would like to offer up as well that we can have some of our other program coordinators present or provide information on their programs as well if more details are needed.
Well, thank you. That was very informative, and I'm sure we can use your help on a number of things. So staff, I'm sure, are eager to learn more about this with you. Thank you. Staff, any questions, comments?
Not this time, corresponding back and forth a little bit and had set up a few meetings prior with Bowser to discuss some of these programs. So definitely be looking into these moving forward with the Greenway, Greenbelt.
Well, yeah,
programs.
it's perfect for that.
Flood mitigation.
Next, for everything, you know, that's for protecting what's there, first of all, number one. And then from that point, the areas that we should be using for certain activities and things that we don't want to do that. I'm pretty excited about using that carbon sequestration from peat soil. We've got a lot of it. And if we can't keep it all, I suppose, but as the cities expand, but there certainly are going to be areas that we should be watching out for and advising our cities, you know, or the technical advisors, so-called, in the areas that we have in our borders for making sure that the water and the ecosystem for the water is healthy. And we've got a lot to look at here. It's great. There was, I think it was in the chat, someone mentioned that we have this area, Bone Lake South Nature Area. There we go, that's the title, that we possibly have peat soil in that when we were looking at that peat soil map. So we do want to focus on that pretty quickly, I would think, and make sure that, you know, we're protecting anything from before we do a lot of work on it. Yeah. Great. Well, this is very informative. I'm very excited about working with this area. We haven't done a lot of work with these grants that I'm aware of, and I think we can put a lot of this to good results. Thank you very much.
Can we make sure that Emily sees this?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure
She'll be
that
2 minutes. She's doing the minutes for this, so she will.
Oh, she's here now?
No, she's not, but
Okay.
she'll watch the recording and do the.
Okay.
yeah, very nice. Anybody have any questions of Dusty while he's online here? No, staff? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dusty, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, moving on. Well, we just happened to be coming upon number 7, Bone Lake South Nature Area Wetland Restoration, scope of work.
And President Managers, Blaine and I think Dr. Wilkinson will take this.
Thank you, Mike. Madam President, managers. As you know, the district's been awarded some outdoor heritage funds to do restoration work on the Bone Lake South nature area that was purchased a few years back. First priority is doing some restoration within the wetlands, northern lobe of the wetland complex of the property. There's an old barn that's situated in the northern part of the property. See it from 228th. It's a history of cattle rearing in that area, milking facility. And as it was common back in the day, that manure eventually found its way down into the wetland, or either through gravity, runoff, or actively pushed down into the wetland to get it out of sight, out of mind. So now we have a legacy load of nutrient-rich soils in that wetland that we'd like to go in and remove. To improve water quality, and not only in the wetland, but also benefiting Bone Lake to the north.
So I thought that was landlocked.
Nope, there is a channel that flows from the wetland to.
So how
directly
can
to
we,
North Lake.
I thought one of the big advantages was having the capacity to hold a lot of floodwater.
Yes.
So if you have the exit, how's it over?
That is one of the things that we're gonna be exploring in the statement of work. So, the statement of work will evaluate the, restoration of that northern load, removal of that legacy load, as well as, looking at the, flood, retention potential. I've got a couple of slides here, as well as a statement of work from EOR. So on the left there, you can see, the property, the Bone Lake South property, be kind of light bluish green is the large wetland complex over 120 acres of wetland. This statement of work will be focusing on that northern lobe listed as W1 or wetland 1, also circled in yellow. The main focus of the statement of work is to evaluate the wetland for restoration potential. That would again be removing that legacy load that I just discussed. We did some preliminary soil samples in that wetland a few years back, indicating that we do have high phosphorus concentrations. That table in the middle there, kind of hard to see the colors, but anything that's dark red is very high total phosphorus. There's some lighter pinks in there that are not showing up well as some greens that are not really showing up at all. But essentially, if you
It's just bad on this TV, you can see it well on the screen.
okay, I hopefully folks joining online can see that better, but the dark red's very high phosphorus concentrations, the pinks elevated, and then the greens are kind of normal background. But you can see in the image on the right, lower right, we have circled in red, kind of an area of interest. Part of the statement of work will be collecting additional soil samples to determine the extent of excavation of those nutrient-rich soils. With that, for any wetland project, we need to do wetland delineations and look at permitting. So we have to go through Wetland Conservation Act as well as perhaps with the Army Corps to determine the permitting needs. So that'll be an element of the statement of work. We'll do some H&H modeling, which I'll discuss on the next slide. And the deliverables from this will be a 30% project design and feasibility report. We can go to the next slide, please. So the H&H modeling will have two kind of main goals here. One is to evaluate the flood storage potential of the property, and the other is to evaluate the impacts of the farm roads and culverts that are throughout that area currently existing that are disconnecting wetland habitats. On the right there, you can see a map of the flood potential. We did some real preliminary modeling a few years back and indicated that a large rain event could potentially be stored on that property within the boundaries of that wetland, all on that particular property, the Bone Lake South property. But that would probably require the addition of a berm at the northern end, which would control that flood water. There would be an overflow, a rock structure or whatnot to control the flow to discharge from that wetland and reduce erosion at that flow over point. That berm would potentially control the water elevation, restore the hydrology, and then keep that area inundated for a longer period, allowing the natural ecological processes of the wetland to take place. The thing that we have to be careful with is that we've got a couple sensitive wetland habitats within the property. There's a rich northern fen indicated kind of in the center of that image on the right. A little hard to see, but it says fen in yellow. And then there's also a really nice tamarack swamp to the south for the property. So any alteration of hydrology or flooding in that area could impact those two sensitive habitats. So we really need to be careful and make sure that we're only retaining the appropriate amount of water so that we're not impacting those habitats.
And you're contacting the DNR on that fen issue?
That was my question.
Yeah, exactly. There was
About
a
north problems.
$800,000 mistake in one of the watersheds in the metro area. Over this whole thing, you might remember, I think it was just 2 years ago, there were like 7 different propositions just for that particular watershed and this particular issue. But apparently DNR hasn't been keeping that information up to date, is what came out of that other one. Is they looked at the book and they went by the book and it was wrong. Yeah.
And they had to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely be consulting the Army Corps as well as DNR. It is, I believe, a public water or water of the state. So we'll go through all that through the permitting vetting process.
That little bitty water area is navigable?
It's not. The navigable term is a pretty loose one. It's like basically at any point throughout the season, even at high water, if a watercraft, a canoe, a kayak can float up and down it, it's
Okay,
considered navigable
I
or,
didn't think it was big enough.
yeah, it's very small.
Mhm.
But that's something we do. need to
And
look
it's a
into as
basin,
well.
right? I mean, it is a basin, so it's a pond.
There is open water, that
Okay.
central area is open water, and then the
Okay.
vast wetland complex.
Okay,
So we'll be looking at the H&H modeling through that lens for flood storage, and then also we're trying to evaluate the impacts of the farm roads and culverts. The image on the left there, in yellow is all the existing farm roads that have been traditionally used when that farm was in, or the lands were in agriculture. The red stars are all the different culverts. There's 8 culverts throughout that area that are currently in different different varying conditions, either degraded or functioning well. But they're all restricting flow between the wetland habitats, disconnecting some of these lateral habitats as well, wetland habitats as well. So the H&H modeling will be evaluating those culverts. Should some be removed? Should some be enlarged? How do we reconnect and restore the hydrology of the area? Again, taking into account these sensitive wetland habitats. So that is the gist of the scope of work. Eric Vigo is the engineer for the project. He is also online and can answer any specific questions, or myself or Dr. Wilkinson is happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
well, just re-emphasizing, make sure you double, triple, quadruple check everything. We want this program and this project to be successful. It's our first one like this, and we have to have it in this size too, but we have to have it right when it comes out. So, you know, if we shoot little things to you that we might hear about or know about, it's only intended to help you give us a successful project, okay? So don't be annoyed. But that one was so important at Fenn to mention that, because the hell that this other watershed went through and ended up with, I don't know if they got that money back from the DNR, but they were certainly at fault when it comes up for not keeping that information up to speed like they should have. Every year it's supposed to be updated. We don't want to fall into any traps like that. So just make sure.
That's a good note.
Yeah, it's gonna be a beautiful ending, so.
Put a red
In our-
circle
in our
on
vision.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're protecting that tamarack area. We have tamaracks near our house too. And they're beautiful, so we want to keep them. This looks like a real forest though, right?
There's quite a few acres of tamarack.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay,
Adam was talking about a public tour in September, I think.
Considering, doing a little walk.
Yeah, so we get an idea of what you're proposing.
I believe there is a motion associated with this.
there is. I'd like to reserve the person from this area always to make the motion. So Manager Baki, I'm clearing the floor for you.
Thank you, President Anderson. I will make the motion to direct the administrator on advice of council to enter into an agreement with EOR in accordance with the July 6, 2026 scope of work in an amount not to exceed $40,920.50.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
Discussion.
Discussion, yeah?
One of the questions I had is whether all this cost is covered by grant.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can add that to the menu, if it's, be sure it's covered. The other question I have is a couple other activities like drilling and construction specifications, obtaining permits. If we have to go to that, is that covered also, or how would that be covered if it's not in the? We had to have a separate request then for that, okay.
Maybe a different scope for next phase.
Yeah, I believe you're referring to like the geotechnical drilling.
Yeah, it says sub costs for here, we may not need them, but if we need them, then the question is, how are we gonna pay for them?
There
Be
would
a separate request. And are those covered under the grant too?
They would be covered under the grant. All the project engineering is covered in the grant as well as implementation.
Yeah, this is just phase one, that preliminary
This is, yeah, essentially the feasibility.
feasibility. Yeah, it's a feasibility report. So more will come out of that, and then that's another phase for a grant. Yeah. But 100%, not just doing the 20 or well, now it's 10% that we are responsible for. So it would be 90%.
Right, and
Mhm.
I believe we have it set up where, staff time would cover
Yes,
that match for this
absolutely.
grant.
Good.
And the grant itself will cover, this feasibility as well as implementation if we move to that.
Perfect. Okay, good. Great. Anything else? Any comments? Any other questions? All right, roll call.
All right, Manager Shopmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Absolutely. Thank you. Unanimous. All right, next item is reporter staff.
We added 7B.
Oh, I'm sorry, 7B. Yeah. And that is to discuss a little bit about what's happening right now with the reappointment process. And Steve, I'll let you just say a little bit about it. We're not gonna go into detail, but what you've run up against.
Mike, how do we want to cover this? What do we have to have approval on if we're gonna go ahead with what we talked about?
Madam President, managers, I think there's probably a couple different things that will want to be addressed. One of them is there was some question as to the process, and council had reviewed statutes. Presently, in my communications over the last number of years, I have communicated to the Washington County staff that as a citizen petition watershed district, the appointing statute is different than those of city petition district, which is most of the other entities in Washington County. So, but they have a singular process, which would suggest that they are somehow feel like their hands would be tied by the lists that have been submitted to the counties. And so this has certainly been on my radar as a issue of concern for the district on behalf of the district, since the district, it would in essence take the sort of the authority from the citizens themselves away and transfer it to the cities. And of course, the President Anderson, you're familiar as anyone with the origin of the watershed district, and it was in fact the lack of activity or actions that got the district to be formed, to get the citizens to get involved and form the district. So I think that's the first and foremost.
After a lawsuit.
Right.
Okay.
So I think so there's that, but then there's also just maybe a discussion that would want to be had as to addressing public statements that have been offered or stated by another candidate in particular. That is, either statements are misleading or false, and that are negative from a public relations standpoint to the district. And I feel that those should be addressed in some format, either by letter or attending a public meeting and being able to present the facts, because some of them are, quite place the district in a bad light, and they're not based on facts. They're based on either opinions or misinformation, which certainly could happen since the individual is probably relying on others for that information.
And what has happened is that in his critique, we have two different approaches to, my approach was to talk about my qualifications, what was been accomplished. His approach was to criticize the watershed district.
Mhm.
And his criticism entails a number of things that you said at the other meeting, if you've ever been associated with running a city or an organization or doing projects, there's gonna be ups and downs,
Mhm.
right? Life isn't a straight line,
Right.
ups and downs. He took a few of the ups and downs
Mhm.
and made them massive issues to say, we ran our business that way.
Mhm.
That was it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're up against, in that respect. And then and then the fact is that this was city, the mayor there. Well, the main thing we're gonna challenge here, if we do I'm gonna write a letter to the commissioners.
Okay.
There's a good chance, well, my name has not been moved on, because I've been blocked in both cases
Mhm.
by the city.
Mhm.
And so, we're gonna write a letter to the city and we're gonna base it upon compatibility of a mayor's position and a watershed district
Mhm.
position. Our legal counsel has shown there's a lot of potential conflicts there.
Mhm.
And what it says that in essence, if it were challenged, it might pass, depending, because there's never been a challenge so
Mhm.
far.
Mhm.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show, and you've heard me talk about all the friction we've had this past year, 2 years since he became mayor. So we've got a list of about 9 items that illustrate the conflicts that can occur between a watershed district
Mhm.
and that have occurred before he's even in office.
Yeah.
And we're appealing to that as being a consideration for them not to hire a mayor, not
What?
necessarily him, but any mayor,
Yeah, well, appealing to the commissioner.
commissioners.
Okay, so.
And then, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, what Steve is talking about is the, next step that's logical. And the board needs to know about this, and if there's any concerns, then you need to, express those now so that we won't go forward if the board isn't behind this. But there has to be a campaign, there's no other way to say it. There has to be a public relations campaign response to this. We can't sit idle when someone is out there in the public and to all of the other elected bodies in our watershed, slamming on the watershed's work. It's not fair, it's not accurate, and that story has to be told. And we're the only ones that can tell it. That would be my responsibility as the president. And then also, Steve, of course, because,
That's my case.
he's got a good reputation to protect.
Right, and so in essence, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking care of the situation and defending our position and trying to get myself back reinstalled on the list by first of all challenging the wisdom of their appointing for the first time ever a mayor by saying, look at all the conflicts that the legal people told could occur have already occurred for the last 2.5 years. I've worked with 6 governors, 6 mayors, 6 councils, and 6 administrators with no problem. The last 2 years have been pretty much like hell because he's constantly been criticizing the watershed district.
And that's the other thing too. He's already publicly stated that he doesn't like watersheds.
And that's what most of these statements are. He's come into this office.
Mhm.
And I think, we have to find out who that was, but that's one of the things I'm gonna point out. The other thing is, of course, the process. This process now, the way it is, I thought that people would advance the best candidates. And the city should not select and sort out.
Mhm.
So when Scandia, there was 2 of us with distinctly different opinions, right? In terms of what should be done. They actually chose between us when they could have just as easily have put both forward, because they're really not supposed to decide. What's supposed to be decision is the commissioners. Now, so that gives me the right then to try to use the citizen petition, because I don't have to go through the cities from that way. I can go directly to the commissioners, and that's what I plan to do in this letter.
Yeah.
And we've got legal counsel that has got 3 pages of analysis saying that this is the right thing to do. We have the right to do that, even though we're only 2 or 3 of these kind of watersheds. It's the correct thing to do. So that's basically what I'm gonna do in this letter with Mike and myself, basically.
Okay,
So
so that's,
but I want to make one last statement. What Mike is talking about, what's in this letter here from candidate Blake Roberts, all of his statements.
Mhm.
So if you want to refute those, I can help provide some information, but it's pretty much about the watershed.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
So I can give you a copy of this, of what's over here somewhere
Okay.
tonight, and then you can, this watershed can take care of that. I'm gonna mention some of the issues,
Mhm.
but I used to, well, I'm not gonna focus on that in my talk to the.
Well, you've got your fight to do.
Right,
And you're gonna use the material that you have from the watershed and your experience here, and that's fine. But
That's the
when
one-
I'm
one of the-
talking about working with Mike and staff to come up with a communication plan to overcome these lies that are being told about the districts and our activities and what we've done over these 27 years that we've been around. We've got a good record to talk about, and we've got a good budget to talk about, despite some other folks that look the other way on that. But, you know, problems happen from time to time. I've been in government life a long time, 50 years probably, in some capacity or another, and it happens. And you either dig your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't happen, or you move on. And that's what we've done. We've moved on. We've corrected that for that situation. And the future is looking bright. And we still have positive numbers at the end of the year. That's the most important. And part of the debt that was being looked at as excessive was actually the purchase, this $2.2 million purchase for the Bone Lake South Nature Area. And that had to reside as a liability on our books according to the accounting standards and our auditors. And that moved over last year into a positive. And if you looked at the 2025 audit report, you see that it just shines out like a big light. So it's some of it is how you have to account for your funds in government accounting ways. And it can be different than we're used to seeing in the commercial world and the private world. So that part needs to be talked about as well. And I don't think people give that enough credit. But anyway, so that's kind of the point. We want to correct the incorrectness that's out there in the public. And there's going to have to be a campaign to do that. We all need to be saying the same thing and making sure that we have the same information. This will come to the board too for your use in your areas where you interact with people in our district. So that's what we are proposing to do and would like to do. And we need to have the board's approval to move forward with that. It will take some work, some hours with the attorney to get that done. And of course, staff time to help pull together the accurate history into a succinct, maybe no more than 2-page area, hopefully with graphics. Okay, so that's what we're laying before you, and we need your okay to proceed. Well, I do. Steve is on his own, but I do. His stuff he'll do. You have access to the information
right.
of the district, so.
And I'm still collecting information from employees.
Yeah.
It'd be better to have specific dates and specific people outside the district that were at the same event.
Mhm.
We have no trouble on the Forest Lake with these types of things again, in front
Yeah.
of 200 people. So that's not a problem. So.
Yeah.
But we had the personal meeting here and the probably you were on the pontoon. Remember the pontoon?
I was on the pontoon.
Right, he made
with
comments
him.
to you and
With
made a
him.
lot of comments to me.
Yeah, he didn't make many negative comments to me.
To you, okay.
He did
So
not.
then he mainly focused on me.
Yeah, he mainly
For
focused on me.
45 minutes
Mhm.
after the.
Yeah.
Mike King has his hand raised.
Okay, Mike?
Madam President, managers, I see council is, I think, looking to say something to the board as well.
Hopefully, good. Thank you. Chuck?
Yes, Madam Chair, managers, just to bring a little bit of clarity from my own understanding and maybe therefore also for all of the managers. I'm looking at this and I'm identifying 3 different interests that the board may have. One is an interest in Manager Schmaltz's reappointment for his expertise and experience and for the working relationships that are making the board productive right now. The second one is the concern that you've expressed about things being said publicly that misrepresent the district and the importance of correcting those. And then the third one is a concern that the board may have about the appointment of municipal elected officials to also serve as watershed managers, and that's the compatibility of offices issue that you raised. And it seems to me each of those three, depending on which of those the board has an interest in, each one involves some different actions and different targets and people you would be speaking with. So it sounds like my understanding from what's just been said is that Manager Schmaltz, with respect to his reappointment, is going to kind of pursue that one on his own through talking with county commissioners or county staff, and perhaps utilizing the memo that I prepared, clarifying that the county is not bound to appoint from city lists. And then the second one is that you, as the president, I think you already have the authority to speak publicly on behalf of the district and try to clarify and correct things that have been said. But the buy-in of the board is nevertheless good for that. The third one is the question of whether these are incompatible offices, whether even if the county board determines that for whatever reasons it can't or doesn't wish to reappoint Manager Schmaltz, is the district concerned about a city mayor becoming a manager and the conflicts and complications that will result from that. And I think if that's also one of your interests, then that's it's a separate item. It's a separate matter to talk with the county about, and perhaps talk with Minnesota Watersheds, or for the broader policy concern that represents.
Yeah, well, I've already started dialogue with people I know in the association. There was a situation when I was early in my life as a watershed board member, and at the annual meeting that year, sat next to a guy who was both the mayor and on his local watershed board. I told him I didn't think that was allowed, and talked to others. I've reached out to 2 past presidents that were there at the time as well, and I've got one response. I'm waiting for the other one. But that individual within the next 4 months was off of the watershed board. Somebody told him that he can't do that it's not compatible. And that's the criteria under the law. There's sort of a double star on that watershed section. And so it matters how the city was designated at the beginning, whether it's a charter basis or the state basis. And if it's a charter city, apparently they can designate however these offices work. And I'm not an expert yet, but I'm certainly done enough reading here over the last several days to understand some of it, that it is an open consideration. It hasn't been, I don't think there's been an attorney general's opinion. That would be the path, working with the association. Hopefully we could get the association.
It hasn't gone to the attorney general again.
Oh, attorney general, what did I say? President, yeah, attorney general is what I meant. And so to get that type of an opinion, and it's worth the effort, I think. And so I think that will happen, but that's going to take months to do. It's not something immediate. I'm talking about something more immediate, and I've read through the League of Minnesota Cities on this topic. I've talked to an individual there, and they do not recommend that to the mayors, even though it's not listed in that statute that calls out federal jobs, county jobs. And I forget the other designation, but, there is statute that says that those people in similar, positions where they are officers, public officers, can't also work for an entity that is a public, concern, unless there's no crossover, and there's plenty of crossover with the mayor job and the watershed. He also has been publicly negative toward watersheds. So he's not working compatibly with watersheds, which is what the Minnesota League of Cities recommends that everyone does. So that's what I know. I didn't want to get into this kind of detail tonight. I just wanted to give the overview and then get the board's permission. I said we were going to be working with you, Chuck, on things. And we've gotten into the details now. And so the board has a full understanding now of what we have been looking at over the past number of days. Chuck gave some advice before he went on vacation, and he was gone for the last several days, but he's back now, ready to go to work. But that outline that I gave at the beginning is really, as I understood from Chuck, the president has the right to respond to those kinds of things, but I do want the board to be knowledgeable of what's happening. I want them to be knowledgeable about what we put together as the truth, so that we're all reading from the same book. And when people approach you, you have the response with you. So that's my purpose.
Fine. I thought Chuck was on vacation yet, so glad to see you, Chuck. I can really use you. So that was one question. I think whatever I put together, and Mike may look at it, but I think it's be wise to have legal look at it. So I don't, because they're still going to see me as part of the watershed. So basically, Chuck, I'm going to also push the case of the compatibility of a mayor on a manager, board manager's job, basically. So that plus the other one challenging the citizen petition thing. So I'm off because I've been blocked by 2 applications by 2 cities. And so that alone is, as you say, very corrosive in terms of the welfare. So we have a candidate, one candidate had one strong opinion, another candidate has an almost opposite opinion about how things should go. And they're going to choose between those 2. And so only one person goes forward, and the district commissioners don't have the advantage of hearing the argument from the other person. That's not good business. And that's what happens with the city petition. By having a citizen petition, I can bypass that and take my case right to the commissioners. And that's what I'm asking them to do, but they could still refuse, arguing what Chuck's rationale was. But I would like to have at least him look over my presentation before we go with it, so I don't make any gross errors in terms of what I say or how I say it.
I don't think that's improper. And if there's any concern on the board's part, now's the time to talk about it. The core principles are the same.
Right.
It's protection of the right, to have the watershed districts stand independent as they are in statute from any influence from cities or counties. The county's job is just to pick and place, not, a person on a board. It's not to mess around in its internal business or tell it how to run or tell it what percentage you can have for a budget.
You say the county can't do that?
No, they're not supposed to interfere with our businesses.
Commissioner Miron, if you recall, Commissioner Miron told us, we explained why we had the deviation, and we explained it's going to take us a couple of years to get back on track. So we admitted to the mistake. We explained the reason why. It wasn't through malpractice or mismanagement. It was things that when you do the 30% estimate, it's not going to be 100% right. And so that caught us and so far down the line. And we had some other things go wrong. But the fact is, Fran Miron told us that, in fact, he told me that, if you go with the 23.7%, there's a good chance you won't be reappointed.
Mhm.
And I actually said that at the meeting where we were voting.
Mhm.
If you remember that,
Yeah, I
it's
do.
in the minutes. So now
Mhm.
I've got to face that situation.
Yeah.
So he's got something to say about it, obviously.
Yeah.
And maybe that's who's behind this whole thing. I don't know. Anyway, so as long as I can have Chuck look at it, I'll feel much more comfortable for the watershed district's benefit, because I don't want to make a mistake that's going to shine
Yeah.
badly on the watershed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, the floor is still open for comment from the other managers.
I think we have to fight for our independence. Keep our group unique from other business or other governmental agencies, and have people on the board who are fighting for the water and protecting the water. If this creates a conflict, I think then we have to fight it.
Thank you, Manager Taves. Anyone else?
President Anderson,
Yes, go ahead.
I had a lengthy conversation with Mayor Cronmiller this afternoon. I asked him specifically about the interview process and how it went and what was the outcome. He explained that it was the city council's majority of 3 votes that decided to only recommend Mayor Roberts. And I asked why Mr. Schmaltz was not recommended as well, because they can recommend up to 3 or more. And he explained that it was his suggestion that the city council recommend both. However, there were 3 who had the majority vote for only Mr. Roberts. We had the conversation too, because Steve Cronmiller has served on the Carmar Watershed District for 13 years. And he has also been on the city council of Scandia for that number of years, and also as mayor. So he has had both hats on. And so we discussed this inherent conflict that exists when you wear these 2 different hats. And that is inherent in watershed districts and cities. They just have conflicting interests. And that to have a mayor serving on a watershed district board may be a problem. And he seemed to understand it. And we discussed how we need to work more collaboratively as a city and a watershed district. There are 3 watershed districts within the boundaries of the city of Scandia. And so we had a very good conversation and came to an understanding that there needs to be more collaboration so that we all can understand what our ends are. And in Scandia, we embrace our rural beauty, and that's always been a part of the city and certainly our watershed district mission and values. So it was a good conversation. We didn't agree on everything, but I think it ended in a positive way. And I look forward to working with the city of Scandia in the future to make things better.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you,
that,
Manager
because
Hockey, for doing that. Yeah.
we have to do this as a unit. We have to take care of our areas, as I said, the people who know you, and the people that have fought for clean water and protection from damage. So I appreciate you both going out like that, Manager Smalls as well. And we're gonna have to keep doing it so that we can change the impression. What strikes me as always, when things like this happen, having been in government, this isn't my first time through something like this, but it always seems to me that it's the Pareto in reverse. It's the smallest number of people that go out and make some misstatements or have animosity toward the institution, whatever it is that they're dealing with, and that stirs up a really strong concern among people who before had nothing but good things to say about the work that institution was doing. And this is very similar to that experience in the past. And we just have to use facts, and we have to use our reputation the way that we know it to be, and we need to make sure that the public knows that too. We're very highly respected within the water world. And that's been so since the beginning, since we started doing our work. And so that means something too, when your colleagues really respect the work that you're doing.
When you're finished.
Okay. And I think even our engineers would vouch for the fact that our approach is different. It is much deeper into science and engineering than a lot of them are, and the results are spectacular. When we say we're going to do something, and the result is going to be X, that's what it is, and sometimes better than that. So we had a big hump to get over, and COVID was behind a lot of it, and that's the overrun on that project on Highway 61 that keeps coming up over and over because there's nothing else for them to point to. So, we got over our hump and now we're functioning. So that's generally the message that I am intending to put together on behalf of the district, and using each of you as people that can talk, from those points to the people that you're familiar with, and I'm going to be dealing with it at each of the organizations, like LGUs that we deal with within our boundaries.
Yeah, I just see that Tom Fury is also on, taking the time again to sit here. I want to thank Tom, and as well as Dave Bakke. They both worked very hard to support me in this situation. Tom Fury is as you know, is the president of the Bone Lake Association. So I had their complete support. They wrote a letter to each of the managers, and Dave, as you can see, did a lot of back checking and so forth. And then now again, even followed up with Mayor Cromwell.
Oh, nice.
I want to thank them very much. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Mike
Okay,
Kinney has his hand raised.
who does?
Mike Kinney.
Okay, Mike?
Madam President, managers, as to the comment about the coordination with the cities, I do want all the managers to know that we have, for some number of years, we have regularly scheduled quarterly meetings with the city of Scandia and Wyoming. Prior to Aaron Parrish's departure, we had monthly coordination meetings with the city of Forest Lake. So that's already been maybe 7 years or so, I think, since he's left, and we've had multiple administrators since then. And I think we've only had 2 meetings with city staff just within the last year or so. And it takes time to continue to develop that dialogue. The last meeting, unfortunately, after maybe a half an hour or so, we were left with just the consulting engineer at the table in terms of our coordination meeting with the city of Forest Lake. Who was a civil engineer, not a water resources engineer. It's a big difference when we were meeting with somebody, both a city administrator and a water resource engineer that represented the city of Forest Lake. There was a lot more, we could find a lot more commonality, and there was a lot more communication working towards common objectives. We did some really great projects. The biggest one that Steve was instrumental on was the research on the street sweeper. Basically, the district did all the background work and then drafted the grant proposal, did all the legwork with the agency. That was the first street sweeper funded by clean water funds in the state of Minnesota. And now, of course, after the research has been completed, it's now become a standard for the MPCA and others to promote that activity statewide. These are not, and we've received the League of Minnesota Cities award for that. These are not small things that have occurred under the direction and leadership of the managers here. Just the completion, turning roughly 150 years of damage to many lakes around in 12 years is unprecedented, additional to the cost factors. So that's the discouraging part for me, is that the legacy is on more trivial things or things that are, not accurate. The dialogue and the communication example is one where it has been stated several times publicly that the city of Forest Lake could not provide for public safety regarding a trail along North Shore Trail because of watershed district rules. Not one time were any staff or consultant approached or communicated with regarding that desired proposal. So they had already taken it off the table prior to even contacting us about the North Shore Trail project. We subsequently have heard, but without asking for public records, that the costs really had to do with other things such as moving power poles, maybe acquiring property, filling in wetlands, things like that, just because of the nature of that area of North Shore Trail. So these are the things that the public is not hearing. So, and it's really tarnishing the reputation of some really exceptional work that the district has done, over these years. So I guess the one thing I do want clarification on as well is the communication regarding the appointment process. If it should be Manager Smalls, did you indicate that you were going to present that, or do you want it forwarded through another means as well?
I'm going to present that, and I'm going to put my rationale up because I went through it, and to me, it's an obvious conflict of interest. As America, we should have free speech. So if you have people of two different opinions, that would be, I think the city would want both of those to go forward so the commissioners could pick the best ideas or pick the best person. That's not happening. I've been blocked in both cases. And so I'm going to put that together, but that's why I want Chuck or Lewis to look at what we put together and make sure I'm saying it correctly, or saying it. I should be saying it. I'm not supposed to be saying it, but I say it correctly, so we don't lose on some technicality. So yes, I plan to do both of those. And Mike, I appreciate your reviewing what I'm doing too. So we're contributing.
So my question though is more on the review that council has completed based off the question of an individual applying directly to the county and not relying on the support from the cities.
That's going to be my last request, to say that, because of this process, I've been excluded through the process of city approved. But I have another option because we're a citizen approved one. I can go directly to the council, and I have Chuck's statement that he's prepared for me. I just have to attach that as an attachment. I believe, is that correct, Chuck? I don't have to make any legal arguments for you. Just use what you have, correct?
Well, my memo reviews the legal question. You'll want to frame your communication in a way that's most effective for the commissioners to get the point that you're making. I would say that on that question, I presume that the county board will be guided by the county attorney. County staff, when it sent out the request or the invitation for nominations to the cities, stated that the board would need to appoint from the nominees submitted by the cities. That statement is correct as to most of the watershed districts in the metropolitan area, but it is not correct as to Comfort Lake, Forest Lake Watershed District, because number one, the watershed district was initiated by citizen petition and not a city petition. And number two, because the district is partly in and partly outside of the metro area. So if you don't also ask the people at the county to confer with the county attorney, I don't expect they're going to get that point. they're just going to go with the assumption that they need to select from the city nominees. So in your communication, and we can talk about it more, in your communication, I think you'll also want to ask them to confer with their attorney about it.
Good, that was not in your letter, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Otherwise, I'm gonna take the comments you just made, which is the main points of the letter that I've read, and use that as my statement, and then reference the attachment that you provided. And then suggest, and not only suggest, but say that it'd be advisable to contact, you should contact your accounting attorney on this. So, is that correct, or would that be sufficient? I think it would be, or we can discuss later too. We don't have to hold up the meeting anymore. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Madam
Thank you, Chuck,
President,
for the suggestions.
Yes,
managers, I might suggest that just so the county is prepared, staff, I think would appreciate if I forwarded, the county staff that is, would appreciate me forwarding that correspondence along with the establishment order for a reference in advance, so they're not caught off guard.
yeah, I think that's appropriate, and I could sign it as well, because I was there when it happened. I'm an eyewitness to it, and we've got records, of course, that it was citizen driven.
Well, that's all part of the attachment. We've got the signed citizen agreement, so that'll be part of the.
Yeah.
So is Mike, you're gonna send my letter in ahead of time, or what are you just gonna send the?
He's sending the challenge in based on
citizen.
incompatibility
Okay.
of offices.
Fine.
And
No,
ahead of time.
No, just on the
also-
appointment, just on the
Oh,
appointment
just on the-
process with the
okay,
establishment
well,
only.
Okay, let's not get into this detail of how it's gonna happen. We're gonna do it. We have a majority. That Manager Schottmuller might feel too soon for him to get into this kind of, high corn. And so we won't let you, we'll let you speak if you want to, but it's not necessary. We have a majority that's already in agreement. We have to fight this. Is that correct, Manager Schottmuller, or would you like to speak?
Yeah, no, the only experience I have is the experience I had to get appointed, and I sort of feel like this is up to the county, and my thought is I'm just a little nervous about stepping on county toes. If that's their responsibility, then just getting them the information they need to make their decision, I think, is all we can really do. But again, that's from a guy who's been here less than a year.
Okay.
Well, the county's gonna feel that this could be a challenge, a legal challenge against them, the way I'm writing it. So they're gonna have to think about this, and that's what I want them to do. Think hard about what's current and how it should change.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hurting a good candidate and it's hurting my reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And I put
That's what
13
you
years
should-
in here.
That's what you should focus on.
Yeah, and I'm more than disappointed. So,
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please go on.
just a quick note on that, and with respect to Manager Schottmuller's statement. To me, the question here is when the statute is applied to limit the county to city nominees, that's a situation where, in fact, the county's toes are being stepped on. In other words, the discretion of the county board to appoint the person they think will do the best job is being constrained by a legal obligation to only appoint from a list that the cities have submitted. So what we're suggesting, we're seeking to have the county board do is to say, yes, we do have full discretion. That constraint does not apply to a citizen petitioned watershed district. And we can consider the city nominees, but we also can use our own judgment. And so as I've said, I've expressed to Manager Schmaltz, the county board still has to believe that Manager Schmaltz has done a good job and deserves reappointment. And our role is simply to urge them to recognize that under the statute, they have the authority to reappoint him if they wish to. They're not bound only to the city's list.
One last question, Chuck. Does it make any difference whether I send this tomorrow or say on Saturday? I mean, the cutoff for applications from the city is on Friday. But I've already got my application in June 25th. So sending later correspondence referencing that application doesn't have to be in on Friday, correct?
Right, yeah, Friday is the deadline for city nominations.
Correct. And I had to wait to the very end to find out, one day before.
And yeah, well,
Busy day for me.
I don't know, I don't know when the county board intends to take up the matter, but that's your relevant date. You want to communicate sufficiently in advance of that so that the county folks can give it proper consideration.
That could be no earlier than Tuesday. I mean, no earlier than Tuesday, obviously, but I've got a meeting with Fran Miron on Monday. So I think we're covered there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I'm sorry.
This matter might come up for any of us. And it may just be unique to our situation, with the current mayor and the current county makeup. But I think it would be helpful if we at least get, a 1-page summary of all the things that you just talked about, Chuck, the deadlines, all of that kind of thing, so that, if any of us run into that situation in the future, we already have, sort of the framework, at least the timing of all of this. That would be helpful.
And my letter will give you all the rationale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. So, let's do that, and Chuck will be in touch with you and Mike, obviously, with coordinating all of this. We were at, administrator, I think, right?
Correct.
Yeah, administrator presentation.
President, managers, we can go through some of this. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but I'll also maybe let's see who else is Blaine still there? Yep.
Yep.
So let him cover some of his slides, and let me just get to them all. So I think that just from administrative side, for the board to know that the RFP for professional services will be coming up probably the next meeting in August. That's every 2 years. And of course, we completed our budget workshop last night. Information on the current permitting activity is presented both in the slide and in the report itself. And Blaine, I don't know if you want to hit camp and then a couple of the other items.
Madam President, managers, we're continuing our Camp Lake monitoring. We just went through week 7, which is July 13th through 18th. We've got another monitoring week next week. And I hope to have a mid-season monitoring update for you sometime in August. See when we get those results back from Met Council.
Beautiful picture.
Yep.
Wow.
We also have been doing some limited cat monitoring, but it's been a little bit of a dry period, so haven't really collected many samples so far.
All right, some of the non-point stuff, Ian's put in here, a couple of mini grants have been completed, along with the photo here showing an ag demonstration activity. They're doing a drone demonstration. A few slides in here from the E&O side. Of course, a lot of continued activity, both Arts in the Park and other workshops. Board discussed that work and related to MREP just last night as well. Interagency communication we've got coming up is the Lower St. Croix activities, policy committee will be meeting on July 29th. That's just around the corner. And research side, Blaine and I were contacted by a new University of Minnesota master's student, Ian Roback. He's interested in doing some lake and wetland denitrification research. So this is related to the nitrogen component of nutrients within the both the soil, the environment, and the water column, and particularly in wetlands. So we're trying to assist him in obtaining some funding, but also be a location for some of his work. On the additional part on the grant side, continue to work on the projects related to the Gold Star Sample Outdoor Heritage Fund grants that we've received. So project work can officially start in July 1st. So we've started with that, and the 2 grants for the Bone Lake South and Greenbelt Phase 1. One of them will be the Audubon property. That's probably should be the first on the list, we anticipate. There's a list here of some additional grant funds that we're pursuing for grant activities. You could take a look at those later. Hopefully more positive news on those to come. Blaine, maybe I'll turn it back to you on these.
Thank you, Mike. As mentioned last month, I believe, we have been working with the city of Forest Lake to do some maintenance out at the County Road 50 iron and hand sand filter. As you know, they've got quite a bit of equipment and they've offered to assist us with that for a very reasonable fee. So they've been coming out monthly and removing vegetation and tilling the soil at the iron and hand sand filter to help infiltration rates and keep that those filter beds vegetation free. We've also had the Conservation Corps came out at one point as well and did a little bit of work on this as well, doing some weed whacking around the perimeter and removing some of the weeds that kind of pile up from their equipment, the city's equipment on the edge. And they'll be coming out again next month, I believe. And then we're going to start the minor repairs on the Bone Lake fish barrier outlet. It suffered a little bit of damage from ice heave last year, so just some minor repairs that are needed there. Should be able to have that repaired and back in better shape for less than $100 or so.
It's amazing. I thought it would be a section or something that, or maybe the whole piece of it had to, be reseeded with new sand and mixture, soil mixture, but it didn't.
It's still functioning as a barrier. It's
wonderful.
A little warped a little bit, but we'll add some spacers in it and get it back trued up a little bit.
Fantastic.
So a little update on the AI side from staff, Matthew in particular has been working on this. You can see on the timeline at the bottom, we're into the release part, and all the indications are is that we're having a positive outcome of this work. Also on the AIS prevention management side, the watercraft inspection data to date, again, just in terms of the numbers of inspections and inspection rate. The inspection rate piece, probably would need to confirm this, but just at first glance, I believe that is higher than what we have seen typically in the past.
It's a good summer, a lot of nice weather, so yeah.
That could be, yes. Also then, staff has been involved with some other AIS activity, both with mapping, working with Blue Water Science, and then there was an aquatic plant ID workshop hosted by MASERC. And shout out to Matthew Hendrickson. He had a perfect score on the test, and it's my understanding that he's the first individual to accomplish that.
Wow. Yay, Matt.
Mhm. So great to have that professional level here at the district. Blaine, I'll let you kind of pass this back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Just a few project updates here. As we discussed earlier on Bone Lake Stealth Nature Area, the scope of work for the first phase of wetland restoration was presented to the board today. Again, this includes H&H modeling, wetland delineations, and a 30% design for removal of that legacy load. Deliverable will be the feasibility report. And then we'll bring that to the board for approval and perhaps moving to the next phase, ordering the project. The Heath Avenue Iron and Hand Sand Filter, we just completed contracting. We had a pre-construction meeting out there on Tuesday with D&D Contracting. We're also gonna have a public open house this coming Monday from 5:30 to 6:30. Invitations have been sent out to the neighborhood. Folks that are adjacent to that property, that project site, and city lake association as well. So we hope folks will come out and learn about the project, and we can let them know what they're gonna see in their neighborhood, how things are gonna change over the coming months.
I plan to be there. So
Excellent. And D&D indicated that they intend to break ground on the project in mid to late September. So we've got a tentative date for that, and I believe we're planning a groundbreaking type of celebration as well.
wonderful.
So I'll be working with Adam and other staff to get that set up and put together. Then East Comfort Pond, we have received a draft feasibility report. Staff have reviewed that and sent that back. Gotten some comments back as well. Some edits back, and we'll be bringing that to one of the coming board meetings, I believe the 13th. So that'll be the project order.
Great, you are.
Madam President and Managers, in addition to what we already just discussed, we are actively collecting our feasibility data along the Sunrise and adjacent wetlands for the AIG project, to continue on with our concept design and feasibility report. And also we are working, Pat and his team are working through the phase 1 report, and that will be coming for staff review very soon, and then coming to a future board meeting.
The phase 1 report.
For the Shell Pond.
Property.
Finally, I was gonna ask that question, when can I announce it?
Certainly, and EOR looks forward to responding to the professional services
Yeah.
RFP as always.
That's a big deal. I mean, we've been talking about that for 27 years.
Yeah, it's very
It's
exciting.
meandering that reach of the river so that it can function like a river. That's great.
That's it. Sorry.
Is that it? Okay. Okay, next is Smith Partners.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is report of treasurer and approval of bills.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So our income this month was $41,947.53 against expenses of $167,815.82. I know we were close to being positive after the 6-month report. Are we, Brad, did we make it in terms of
We did.
having a positive cash flow?
We did. We came in with approximately, I believe it's about $80,000.
Okay, so I think we had estimated 38, so that's that's good. Okay.
And, yes.
Well, good. That's good news. So I know we're pressed for time tonight. So basically, I just asked the board to accept the treasurer's report and authorize the payment of the bills. There's no transfer required this month, so we got away with that. So if someone would like to make a motion.
And the bill total is what? How many? Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $167,815.82.
Okay, a motion is in order to accept the report and pay the bills.
Pay the bills, right?
Is that your motion
Yes.
as treasurer? Okay, good. I'll second that. And we'll just dispense with this very quickly.
All right,
So, sorry,
Amanda Schottler,
Aye.
Andrew Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Next is the report of officers and managers. Managers, anything to report? Doug?
Nothing here.
Okay, Jim?
I had a wonderful trip out west, but other than that, nothing to report.
Great.
Ready for one.
He's back for only a day, I think. Okay, Manager Bucky?
I just want to share with the board that Matthew also has a cabin up on Elbow Lake where I have a cabin, which is north of Lake Vermilion. And if you've been following the fires up north, that is an entirely different issue that lakes and cabins are dealing with up there. We have a ready, set, go process in place set by the St. Louis County Sheriff. And we are within 5 miles of that ready, set, go area. So we're all very concerned about fires up north, and that's a whole different issue than what we're dealing with here.
Oh, I'm gonna pray for rain, just up there. Oh, thanks for that update.
I have nothing.
Okay. I have nothing to report. And so there we go to Chuck, summary and approval of board direction.
Madam Chair, managers, the only thing I have is that President Anderson asked that I at some point in the reasonable future, just prepare a one-pager about the reappointment process and the various deadlines and so forth.
But also received approval to use your services for this issue that we have to not only work with the county, but also study ways that we can make sure that this doesn't happen again through either Attorney General's opinion or some other method. So that should be added too, because that was part of the request from the board. And we don't want to run into this in the future if we don't have to. Okay, everybody agree with that? That's okay, good. All right, next item is adjourn. Who will make that motion?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay. There's a second to adjourning.
Second.
Jim, seconds? All right.
Manager Schottmiller,
Aye.
Manager Bucky,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, board. Anybody else that's online, I never get to see your faces, but I'm glad you showed up, and thank you, Dave, and congratulations. Yeah.
Sounds complicated to me.
And you've already